guys, so whilst my hair dries, I'm going to do a very quick video about what the occupation in demand list is for Rwanda. So I've done some videos in the past about job hunting in Rwanda and how to get a visa. I'll leave those links below. But something that very few people know about is the occupations in demand list. Now, I don't think this has been updated since 2022. I think that's the most recent. But what it is every few years, the country does a survey of occupations and gaps in the employment market that need to be filled. And it lists all sorts of job descriptions that, if you meet that job description, might help you to get employment in Rwanda. Now, there's some upsides to this and there's some downsides to this. And I'm just quickly going to explain what they are. But first off, if you want to have a browse through the listing, I'll leave the link below. And I might actually download the PDF and make that available as a direct link below, because sometimes when I try to direct link to it, it doesn't work. So if you follow the link, choose the second option, and that will go straight through to the occupation on demand list. And I'll also try and include the PDF below. But when you get into it, what you'll see is with any gazette or any official law in Rwanda, you will always start with 3 boxes. And the left is always Kinyarwanda, the middle one is always English, and the one on the right is always French, which is quite a good resource if you're trying to learn Kinyarwanda, because, you know, you can download any law from the country and you can compare the translation between English, French and Kinyarwanda. There is actually a 4th official language, which is Swahili, but I think they've left that off because it would be too much on a page. And there's a little preamble on this, and then if you scroll down, you'll start to see the list of occupations that are lacking or missing or underrepresented in Rwanda. And we've got everything on here from research and development managers to health service managers, school principals and college deans, architectural landscapers. There's all sorts on here, so it's worth having a little browse through. So starting with the bad news is, when I first moved back to Rwanda, I actually set up my own company, and that's how I was able to get a visa. But I was wondering if I could apply for a visa under the occupation in demand list, because on here it includes theatre and cinema managers. And I have actually got a degree in theatre, and I was a theatre manager very, very briefly many years ago. And I kind of thought, oh, you know, could I start a business around that? And because that profession is on the occupations in demand list, could I put in for my personal visa and say, well, look, I'm filling one of these positions, and would that then give me a bit of an advantage in the visa market, because I can prove that I'm filling a need. But the downside to this is you can't apply for a visa as an individual or for your own business on the occupations in demand list. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, which I think is a bit of a shame, because I think it would be really helpful if people could see what is needed in Rwanda and match their skills as individuals to the country's market, and get a personal visa that way, an individual visa that way, or long-term citizenship or leave to remain in order to fulfill those roles. But the way that it does work is that employers can use that list. So if you want to come to Rwanda on an employment visa, so you're not starting your own company or your own business, but you would like sponsorship from a company, and the company sees that you are on that occupation in demand list, and the company needs someone to provide those skills or to fulfill that position, they can apply for your employment visa using the occupations on demand list. And the upside to that is that usually if a company in Rwanda wants to employ a foreigner or an immigrant worker in a position in Rwanda, they first have to conduct a market availability survey. So basically they have to prove that there is nobody qualified in Rwanda or no better candidate in Rwanda to fulfill that position, which helps to make sure that people graduating in Rwanda are getting jobs in Rwanda rather than those jobs, suddenly being taken by somebody from outside the country. But if you are on the occupations in demand list, they don't have to conduct that survey, is my understanding of the situation. And again, that might change in the future. They might update the occupations in demand list at some point soon. Some listed positions may be added and some might fall off. So keep up to date with that news. I'll try and keep you up to date below. If any updates happen, I will try and leave a comment. But providing that you are a foreigner who fulfills one of those roles, and you've got to have the qualifications to prove it and the experience and the CV to prove it. But if you meet one of those employment titles and you can find an employer in Rwanda who needs somebody to do that, then they can hire you without having to perform that countrywide search because it is already understood that there are not enough people to fulfill that in Rwanda. So it's an interesting one. It's an interesting list to know about. Not many people do. But if you are looking for employment rather than to start a business in Rwanda, it's worth checking that out and then maybe messaging a few companies or organizations in Rwanda who potentially might need somebody on that list and see if you can work out an employment visa sponsorship. Okay. I think that's everything I wanted to say about it. If you've got questions, probably don't ask me because I'm not an employment expert and I'm definitely not an immigration expert. It's up to you now to do your own research on this, but hopefully it's helpful. And if you do manage to get an employment visa through the occupation on demand list, let me know below how it went and what the process was, because I'm sure that will be really helpful for others. So see you in the next one.